Hello, hello. Test, test. The rest of the lunch has arrived. Just so you know, we had a little typo in an email, so on November 6th, there will be some fabulous lunch here. But we do have some meats for sandwiches as well as the potato soup that you've been enjoying.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to your October 6, 2025 Rotary Club of Ames meeting. Appreciate you coming out today. Let's start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have anyone to keep in our hearts and prayers this morning? If not, let's just think of someone or those around the world that could use our help. Okay, thank you. You may be seated. We have a few guests here today. I'm going to start with David to introduce the guests you have at this table. David.
Morning. I'm going to be speaking on the behalf of the clay tennis courts here in a second. I have along with me three of the leadership of the tennis community that I'm so happy to have here. For these clay courts, we have something called the Ames Tennis Friends, LLC, and I'm lucky enough to be the president. The vice president is with me, Chuck Winkleblack, works, he's a general contractor with Hunziker Construction. If it wasn't for his participation in all we've done, nothing would have happened. So Chuck Winkleblack is here. Jim Dixon is our secretary treasurer. He's a CPA here. He's a member of the Ames Morning Rotary. Thank you for coming, Jim. And Lynn Thede is here. Lynn's a longtime elementary PE teacher, now retired. He was Ames tennis coach for decade after decade. He won 4 consecutive women's high school team championships. I mean, and quite honestly, he goes south in the winter and plays on clay courts all the time. He was really a mentor for what we did. So I welcome all three of them here today.
Yeah, welcome, guys. Welcome. Thank you. And Jenny's going to introduce, we've got a guest here with us today, a potential member.
His name is Chad Blumker, and he is with New York Life. Welcome back, Chad. Welcome.
Let's go ahead and sing for him. Welcome to you from Ames Rotary, Elevate, London, or Whitbury, from the far-off lands of the USA. We're glad that you are here today. Come back again whenever you're near. Join us and then we'll make it clear. Around the world you'll always be welcome at Rotary. Thank you, Louie. And we have our, let's see, did I advance that? Nope, I didn't. There we go, September birthdays. Happy birthday to everyone on the September birthday list there. Yeah, why is that in here? Hey, but I missed the September meeting. That's why it's still in here. So I wanted to go ahead and say happy birthday to everybody in September and the anniversaries too. But those look like October anniversaries because I'm a September anniversary. Jenny, you're an October anniversary, right? Well, let's just sing happy birthday and happy anniversary, my style. We'll just do that as all one song. And if you have an October birthday, happy birthday. Maybe that was already in there. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Happy birthday and anniversary. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. The awkwardness of that is wearing off, right? Thank you, everybody. Let's see here. Oh, and these This is the list of those of anniversaries. Might be a little bit off on that, but thank you everyone for your participation in Rotary over the years. A lot of years up on there right there. So let's give a round of applause for everybody for anniversaries. Online meeting next week. Joshua Waite will be here. Topic will be AI in everyday life opportunities, realities, and practical impact. So that'll be online next week, and then we will have World Polio Day in October. So if you remember last time, we have the polio giving cups here that you'll need to put in change or a check or cash will work too. We are collecting those today in the back, or it can be the next time we're in person too, which would be the 20th of October. Karen, I believe, will be here that day to talk a little bit more about that as well, but it's pennies for polio or checks. Checks are preferred for polio. And we do like Venmo too and PayPal and all that stuff, so no excuses out there. All kinds of ways to help out to end polio. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to our guest speaker now. I'm going to have David come up, or Allison wanted to introduce David, so I'm going to have her come up and start with that. Thank you, sir.
So we were hoping to have the Iowa State tennis coach here as well, but that didn't work. So Dave assures us he can speak for hours about. So I'm warning you now. No, Dr. Dave Carlyle is a 27-year member of our Rotary Club, and so doesn't need much introduction, but I will tell you that he was my husband's family practice doctor for years, since we moved back to Iowa, and we've both gotten seen a whole new side of Dave through this project, and I'm sure he's going to mention my name at some point, but it's my pleasure to invite to the stage Dave Carlyle.
Two years ago today, I retired from 30 years at McFarland Clinic as a family physician, and I really, at this point, can say that was not true. I did not retire, I just took on a new job, and that was working on these clay courts, and we're going to go through it and talk about clay. You're going to know more about clay courts and more about the process than you're ever going to wish you'd known, but we all have passions. The three gentlemen I introduced, one of their passions is tennis. One of my passions is tennis. I think human beings seek certain things. We seek beauty. We seek to be passionate about something. We seek to create, and many of us seek to compete. And finally, and this is why I'm really very happy with this project, we seek to honor and we seek to remember those who have gone before us and done good and great things. And these clay courts does, in my mind, all of them. I was really lucky to go to the French Open tennis tournament in Paris this year. And some people would say, why do we care about clay tennis? I mean, hard courts, we have hard courts everywhere. People play all the time. What's the difference? And to me, there's several things that means a lot, at least to my generation, and I just want to explain that to you. Number one, clay tennis is 70% easier on the hips and knees. And Lynn Thede goes to Pompano Beach in the winter. He can play 5 times a week on the clay court in Florida in the winter. And that certainly is not the case for me or for other people if we were doing hardcore tennis. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is on these hot days, it's been proven that clay tennis is 10 to 15 degrees cooler than a hard court because you don't have the radiation of the heat coming off the court. Number three is the points are slower, longer, and as, in my mind, more enjoyable. It's just a more enjoyable way to play tennis. Is that going to work? Jesse? So the French Open has kind of been renamed. Wimbledon is one of the major tennis tournaments, and it doesn't like to be called the All England Championship. It's like to be called Wimbledon. It's now the French Open wants to be called the Roland Garros. And Roland Garros was a French pilot in World War I, and he had this quotation: "Victory belongs to the most tenacious." And I can tell you that really summarized, in part, what it took for us to be standing here today, talking about the tennis facility at the Ames the Iowa State women's tennis facility that is in South Ames, the Research Park. I mean, this group that I'm associated with, Ames Tennis Friends, came together in 2017 because there was no really satisfactory indoor tennis. And we came together in 2017. We raised $400,000 and matched that with the club and created the four-court bubble. That project died several times before it came into fruition, and similarly, the clay courts came to be. It was also true. The Bruce McKee complex, and we'll go through the naming here in a little bit, is what we're talking about today. Is 2 clay courts that situates. It's located at the Iowa State women's tennis facility, but it's really important, and it's been known. Really important that there is no connection between the clay court complex and Iowa State's Research Park, Iowa State athletics, Iowa State women's tennis. I mean, we are very lucky to be located at the site, but there's no financial arrangements. There's no connection there, and we're very lucky to be there. But it's important that everybody knows this is not an Iowa State function. This is a function of us coming forward to raise the money. So, Jesse, I'm getting 2 screens at the same time. Oh, you're only seeing the big one? Okay, that helps. So this is the 2 clay courts. They were built this spring and summer, and through the very great help of Chuck and Hunsaker, and there's several institutions and people we need to thank. We need to thank the Iowa State Research Park, which allows us to use the land, Hunsaker Construction. There's a 501c3 Central Iowa Tennis Alliance, which is run by Bunny Bruning from Des Moines. She's a 501c3 dedicated to tennis in Iowa. And she allowed us to use some of their 501c3 because some of the donations, some of the money had to flow through them. We raised $320,000 for this project. We also like to thank Ames Rack and Fitness Center because they have graciously allowed to be the management for this the clay courts. So we go back to 2018 when we were settling on the tennis bubble, the original 4-court bubble. Hunsaker was going to be the contractor. Bolton Mink created a diagram for us, February 2018, and lo and behold, next to the 4-court bubble, we had thoughts that we could do clay courts. So it's taken us 7 years to get from that initial idea. In the meantime, what happened was that the 4-court bubble took off. It did really, really well. We were part of the fundraisers for that, and it got sold to Iowa State, and they did what I was hoping Coach Mastis was going to talk to you about, the new Iowa State women's tennis facility. That is 6 indoor courts. They took down the bubble, expanded it, and created 6 indoor courts. They created 6 outdoor courts, and then they built a hard structure building for their locker facilities. It's a beautiful facility. It's one of the best facilities in the Midwest. They just had a tournament there. I was not able to attend. Chuck said they had like 10 to 12 teams there. Jim was there and said the competition was exciting. But I can just tell you that we are very happy with the fact that Iowa State women's tennis came to South Ames, and that allowed us to have land available for the clay courts. So the clay courts are located on a piece of ground that to the west is the hard courts for the Iowa State tennis. To the north is the bubble, but this is what excites me, is there's field farmland to the south and farmland to the east. It is one of the most beautiful places you ever want to play tennis. I mean, you have no traffic, you have no noise. It's just a wonderful place to be out and enjoying your tennis. It started as all construction projects did, and we'll just move through this. What you need to know about clay court tennis is clay court tennis has 5 inches of sand base, and within those 5 inches, there's different ways to. Clay courts require moisture, so you can either do water above the ground, which is a lot of courts throughout the nations do, or you can do irrigation, subsurface irrigation, and that's what's happened with ours. We have 5 inches of sand. In that are pipes that get irrigated every night if the courts need moisture. So, and the sand, what saved us financially greatly was that we were able to get the sand from the Martin Marietta mine here in Ames. I mean, that was a tremendous positive for us. And then you put on 1.25 inches of clay. The clay comes from Virginia, a company by the name of Hartrue, and they roll it down so the 1.25 inches becomes 1 inch of clay, and that's what you play on. And you have compacted clay, and then you have a little bit of a loose clay on top. And it's, you've heard about sliding. I mean, you slide on that little bit of loose clay. So the courts were built over the course of like a month. First, the fencing. We had this issue with the in between the courts, because the hard courts had drainage. Manhole grills, drainage grills that needed to be kept. So we had 8 foot of a buffer area, and we had long debates. What should we do with this buffer between the hard courts to your right and the clay courts to the left? And one idea was concrete, and one idea was to create to put AstroTurf in, and AstroTurf was eventually decided. And we had workers throughout, and this is Maya. Maya is one of the girls who train, through the Ames Rec and Fitness. She was number 26 in the country for 12 and under, and she and a number of the people around that table helped work to do this to make this economical. So, I don't have a picture of Jim. I have a picture of Maya. Sorry, Jim. I wasn't going to say that, but I'm glad you said that. So anyway, we created an AstroTurf area, and real quick, a quick story. The new AstroTurf is going to cost like $8,000 for this section of 8 foot by 98 foot, and we ended up going on the internet and finding a reclaimed property company out of Ohio, and we were able to buy this and have it sent to us from Ohio. This is a football field that was taken down and replaced with AstroTurf, and we got it for like $2,000. So we saved $6,000 by doing this AstroTurf. And the AstroTurf is beautiful to look at. It's nice and soft to walk on. And later on, I'll show you one of the things I'm really am happy with. But this is the AstroTurf between. you can't see it as much as I thought you would. The benches were donated by the members of this LLC. And if you can look real close, that we were worried about the sharp feet of the bench, and so somebody came up with the idea of cutting a slit in a tennis ball and putting the tennis balls at the benches. So this is the first match that ever occurred on the courts. It's June 12th of this year. And so they came into action on June 12th. A lot of things that happened after that, we got windscreens, and we put the windscreens up, and the windscreens are invaluable. I go back to the beauty of it. As you can see, there's a 10-foot fence to the bubble there, behind it, but there's only a 6-foot fence to the east, and that's to be able to still enjoy the view of the farmland and the land to the east. So it's a really beautiful place to play if you're a tennis player. If you have people coming to town, the other thing I should say is that this is the only public accessible clay tennis courts in central Iowa, and I really truly believe it's the only publicly accessible clay courts in the state of Iowa. Wakanda has clay courts. Des Moines Golf and Country Club has clay courts in Des Moines. At least one country club in Cedar Rapids has it. Davenport has it, but you cannot get on a court in the state of Iowa except for Ames, Iowa. So we wanted to honor people, and so we're going to talk a little bit about the naming of the courts, and this is something I think is really important. I mean, you go through, I went to Ohio State to see a football game a year ago, and they had names on bricks, they had names on everything, had a name on a tunnel. But the names are there, but you don't have a sense of who that person was. And we really thought if we were going to name something, we wanted some identification. So I'll go ahead. So Bruce McKee. So the granite signage is it'll be gray granite from Georgia, and then inset in that is going to be a ebony laser image of the individual. This is Bruce McKee. Bruce McKee was the Iowa State engineering engineering graduate in 1952. He was an intellectual property lawyer. Apparently, he did a lot of patent work for Iowa State University, my understanding. But the reason he's here is because he loved tennis, and he took tennis lessons until he was 85 years old. He played at Wakanda. The pro at Wakanda told me that he loved clay, and she said that he would tell her, in the middle of a hot day, he'd want to go out and hit with her, and she said, "Oh no, it's too hot." And he said, "The hotter the better." And I just so that will be a granite signage on the granite plaque that just hasn't come yet. You all heard of delays with shipping and whatnot, and we just haven't have that come in yet. The French Open has courts named for it, and we decided to name each of our courts. This is the court Philippe Chartier at the French Open. U.S. Open has Louis Armstrong named for a court, Arthur Ashe named for a court. So we have the two courts named. One of them is Court Jensen, and I don't know if anybody ever heard of Erling Jensen. Erling Jensen, this is a drawing that's going to be on one of those black ebony stones that we just haven't gotten finished yet. But Erling Jensen was a professor at Iowa State of physics. He also for a time was president of Muhlenberg College, Pennsylvania. But what's significant for us is that he was the #1 player in the nation, 65 and over in 1973, and #1 in 75 and over in 1983. And Jim got the chance to play with Erling Jensen years ago, and he tells me that he had the hardest fastest forehand he's ever seen after playing for decades. And Jim actually played tennis at Iowa State in 1972. So he was inducted in the Iowa Tennis Hall of Fame, and they had a annual tournament named after him, Erling Jensen Esquire Memorial Day Tournament, that went on for years and years, and it gradually died out, but it was named for him. So I kind of consider these naming rights kind of the Mount Rushmore of tennis in central Iowa, and Erling Jensen certainly deserves to be on that. The other court is the Court Walters, named after Marvin J. Walter, Marv Walter, a member of this club. This is a picture that Allison and Stacy that will be on that black ebony laser, piece of granite, inset in a piece of granite. Marv Walters, for those who need to be reminded, a prominent Ames businessman, fierce tennis competitor. I got to know Marv just a touch, but I only played doubles and he only played singles, so I really can say I never was on the tennis court with him. But they say that he just loved his game. He became a huge ambassador for the game. He was a founding partner in Ames Racket and Fitness Center when they built the initial, it was 4 courts, wasn't it, indoor? 4 court indoor. And there's a guy by the name of Tom Durkin who just retired as kind of the manager of Ames Racket and Fitness, and he was telling me this story about Marv and said there was a time when they were talking about getting rid of tennis when he was alive, and he took his hand, slammed down, took his fist, slammed down on the table and said, "I do not care what it takes, we shall always have tennis at the club." So that's the name of the courts. So in honor of the Erling Jensen Memorial Tournament that occurred on Memorial Day, we decided to have our own tournament. So 3 people came together. I was one of the 3, and we had the annuals. We had a Central Iowa Clay Court tournament on Labor Day weekend, and it was a huge success. We thought we'd get 16 people sign up for open singles, and we had 27 sign up. We thought we'd have, we had an open division for doubles and then a 8.0 doubles, and we had 9 and 12 respectively. I mean, we played both at our courts, and if you haven't heard, and someday we need to have come talk to us, Vitaly Pacharski. Vitaly Pacharski is a gentleman who moved back here to Ames area. His dad taught here, his wife is from here, but he built a Taj Mahal indoor red clay tennis court. Just you take this country club road up to Gilbert, turn left at the T, and go over to Bucks Hill. And if you drive by there, you see an airplane hangar. That's his tennis courts. It's 46-foot peak. It's 20-foot sidelines. You walk in and you feel like you've just gone to another universe. So the tournament was out of those 3 courts. We had great participation. This is one picture. It's a terrible picture. I apologize for that. But what I love is on the AstroTurf, you see one guy stretching on the AstroTurf, the other guy sitting on the AstroTurf. I mean, they're playing doubles there. That's exactly what we wanted. We wanted participation and people using the courts. This was it was a money tournament, $300 for the winners. Our own Tim Ellis, Ames High graduate who won the singles title, 7-8 years ago, won the tournament for the singles open division, some of the best players in central Iowa. Over half of the 27 people in singles were from outside of the Ames, Boone area. I mean, very well populated from Des Moines, and some people came from Cedar Rapids. The doubles, was won by a gal who just graduated from Iowa State, Anna Knierim. Anna is now assistant pro at Iowa State, but she was #1 singles, #1 doubles when she played last year. But what blows my mind is they played a 2 out of 3 doubles match, 2 out of 3 sets doubles match. If you know about tennis, it's the first 1-2, and if you go 1-1, you play the third one. She played 3 sets with her partner, a grad student from Iowa State. They went 3 hours and 30 minutes, one match, for a 2 out of 3 set. I mean, unbelievable, and she won it. So the awards all stayed in Ames. So that was very exciting. So we had dedication on the Sunday of the Labor Day tournament. This is the display. We had representation from people who knew all 3 of our naming rights. Bruce McKee, that pro who played with him, who also runs the 501c3, spoke about him. Frank Schabel, if you know him, talked about Erling Jensen, having played with Erling Jensen, and then the Walters family were there in great support, and Allison and Stacy, talked about their father. It's cool because, I mean, Allison's passion is skiing, but Stacy, the other daughter's passion is tennis. So she gets to play on Thursday afternoon on the court named for her father for doubles, and I think that's very special. I'm going to end this with a picture of the Walter family who were there at the dedication. But I think this clay tennis courts, if you ever get a chance, we are going to close it down for the winter on October 19th. You have to blow out the pipes and get them prepared for winter. So, but if you can get out there before the 19th, I would love to have you go see the tennis facility. The hard courts are beautiful. The indoor courts have an observation deck in between court number 3 and number 4. That's beautiful, and then the clay courts. So I would ask you to think about going out there. Unfortunately, I don't think the signage granite pieces will be up yet. I don't know why, but it's taken forever. But next year you can come out and see that. And also, when the tournaments come, I would ask you to come out and see some really great tennis. So, thank you.
Any questions? Oh, okay.
There you go, you got to turn it on. Talk a little bit about, this is green clay, but in the French Open, it was red clay. Can you talk about the difference and why you chose green?
We did not have as much money as Vitali, so that's why we didn't do red. I mean, Vitali imported his on a barge from Germany. Green clay is used in the United States almost always. It comes from, you remember where in Virginia? It comes from a site in Virginia. It is much more economical. It actually plays just a little bit different. The red clay is really more fine. This is a little bit more granular, but they both give you the same cushion. They give you the same, but and green clay is used in the United States. There's red clay. Armando Espinoza is our pro at the club, and he grew up in Mexico City. He played growing up on clay, and so in South America, in Europe, they do more with red clay. I should tell you real quick about the quality of the tennis. There's a professor at Iowa State called Alejandro Andreatti from Argentina. His brother, he grew up playing tennis. His brother was a pro. He was in the top, 300, and he played in tournaments all over Europe. He came and played here and thought they played as well as the tournaments he played on in Europe. So we've had really good compliments regarding the clay. Go ahead. Yes.
What's the life expectancy of a clay court in our climate outside? And then have they developed some kind of artificial material for the equivalent of a clay court today with all the rubberized turfs and things that are on. I'm just curious what's happening in the material area with your court surfaces.
You know, they just had the Laver Cup in San Francisco. It was played indoors, but it was played on some kind of, must have been a rubberized surface because they talked about how much it was slower. So I think it's out there. You know, obviously we all know that, you know, the three great surfaces typically, traditionally in tennis, there's hard courts, which is what we see all around. There's the clay, which I've been just telling you about, and then there's grass courts, and there's actually a grass court in Charles City, Iowa. I sent him photos of that, and he got all excited, and he'd like to have some kind of situation where they'd have a day where they would play like a clay court in Ames, and then drive up to Charles City to play in the afternoon. I mean, Chuck, have you heard about, you know, different surfaces beyond the?
No, not really. I think to your earlier question, Warren, when the big thing that we'll have to do for maintenance with these, the lines that you see are nailed down with nails. And so in Iowa, as you know, with frost, it's likely that we'll have to redo the lines every year. The rest of the court, we should be able to get 15 to 20 years before something more substantive has to get done. In the meantime, we have extra clay that we kind of sprinkle and move around because, again, the playing part of the clay is less than an eighth of an inch thick. So as we move it around and that kind of stuff, there really shouldn't be a lot, assuming that we do a good job and get the lines blown out here in the next couple of weeks, and then they'll get energized in the spring. The way the water gets regulated on the end of the end of each of these courts on both ends, the first time I talked to the guy, they likened it to a toilet. So that underneath all of that, there's a rubberized surface. So it acts as a big bladder. So when it rains, then again, there's a little float in these little potholes at the end of the court that does not allow water to come in because your toilet's full. When it gets dry out and moisture evaporates, then each of these little zones will let enough water in till the bladder is full. So it's basically a big swimming pool out there with 6 or 8 inches of material in there, and the goal is to keep it wet. But then if it rains, there's also drain tiles that go underneath there's an overflow, but that's what keeps it, and that's probably the biggest thing we'll have to maintain. The surface, the way they compact the surface, we had to prepare the surface below that so that it was compacted, had the engineering tests and stuff, so 15 to 20 years, we hope.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your first. You know, the other thing I've been told is that in the spring there is a certain dryness that occurs, and you have to scrape off some of the dryness and apply some of that new clay. But we'll all be learning about that. But Wakanda's done it for, 30, 40 years, and they've never replaced. I mean, so go ahead.
So question, I don't see lights, and are there plans for lights?
I wish we had lights. We don't have lights. We can't afford lights. I doubt if we'll ever get to that point. I mean, but lights would be an added feature. I mean, the nice thing is this is a April to October venture. So at least in the main months, May, June, July, you got some long daylight. So, I mean, you can play as you would think, 8 to 9 and get a lot of benefit. Right. Yeah, this year it was $20 per hour, and we are assessing what we're going to do next year. $20 per hour for the court this year. What? You call the club, and the club will schedule you. Ames Fitness. Yep.
Hi, I'm Carl Byrne. What are the specs of the clay? And how do you prevent the clay from mixing with the sand?
Chuck?
The sand is packed to, it's a special mix of the sand. So it's difference between man sand and pea gravel, if you will. So it packs so hard, it's almost like concrete. So then the clay just sits on top of it, and it doesn't. When you see what they did and the way they applied it, and the combination of this stuff with some water on it, it's almost like concrete. So we don't have to worry about the clay mixing on it. Again, it's just a little surface on the top, but it just won't. I'm sorry? You know, we relied on this Welch company that they ordered it, brought that material themselves. So I don't really have a lot of details on the clay because it's what they use. It's called Hartrue. But I don't have a lot of details on the specs, I guess. It was just what they recommended for our climate and for what both the density and the thickness is what they've used throughout the Midwest. I don't know the answer to that.
I'll get back to you next week. I'll tell you.
Another question over here.
Kate Reynolds, and I apologize, I had to step out, so I don't know if you already answered this, but is there ever collegiate play on clay?
I talked to the Iowa State coach, and it's interesting. A lot of his players are from Spain, in places where they play clay, so they grew up on clay. Unfortunately, he said maybe there's one tournament a year where people would play on clay, but ordinarily clay is not a collegiate experience. So I was hoping he would. I was hoping there'd be some interaction as far as him playing on it, and quite honestly, it just doesn't make sense for him to do that now because the bounce is different. It takes a while to get used to the bounce, and I think they're at such a high level that even that little bit of bounce, I think, doesn't work for them. That change.
Thank you, Dr. Carl. Real quick, can you remind them again how they can sign up? It was Ames Fitness, was that right? To sign up to go play?
Yes. You call Ames Fitness, and if they have any issues at all, ask to talk to the pro Armando. Sometimes you may, unfortunately, like everything else, you get a multiple set of people at the front desk, and sometimes you got to take that next step and talk to Armando. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Carlyle. I appreciate that. I'll have you sign a book for a 2-year-old to get at their welfare check here before you go today. Thank you again. Very informative. I didn't know anything about clay courts, or I've got a best friend who plays tennis, but that's about as far as it goes for me. So congrats to you and all those that seek, that resonated with me, all those that seek to make the student athletes here locally more competitive and more comfortable, it sounds like, in the playing. So thank you again. Another round of applause for Dr. Carlyle. Appreciate that. Again, reminder, we've got these to help in polio. So if you could generously donate, we will collect those today and again in person on the 20th. And we'll hear a little bit more about the polio day for October. So thank you very much. And we will be posting this, but part of your fourth quarter contributions have been and will be, again, this year that $25 that you give will be going to Polio Plus in the fourth quarter. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. That's the way that it has been going, but it's just important to make sure everybody is aware where your money is going. So thank you very much. And with that, please rise and we'll do the 4-way test together. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.